Good morning and welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. My name's Diane Alcorn and I am the Membership and Engagement Coordinator here. If this is your first time visiting with us, welcome. We're glad you took the time to join us here. If you'd like more information about our church and our worship community, please feel free and send me an email. In the meantime, again, welcome. We're so glad you took the time to join us.
When you see the email from Daniel, I'm taking care of it.
What's the email about? Daniel.
Ong.
Anthony, can you take it from the top, not Dave, just you?
What do you want? What?
From the beginning.
Sure, just
Well, we're gonna skip Dave each time.
so just start with the welcome. Is that what you're saying, Christine? Welcome. You let me know. Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a more equitable and just world for all. I'm Reverend Anthony McCarr, Senior Minister of this amazing community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, Music Director, Megan Ross, Director of Religious Education and Engagement, Grace Durfee, Worship Associate, and our wonderful tech folks making this live stream possible, Christine Solanti, Larry Wise, and Michael Hockman. Together, we are pleased to invite you into this space which is connecting people from all over Cleveland and all over the world. It is a welcoming community, and often the world is not so welcoming as this one. Often the values of the world are neither loving nor just. So, may this worship hour be one where our souls are fed by a wisdom and a passion that remind us that life does not have to be that way, that there exists a larger love in every human heart that is urging us on to what is better. Let this larger love move in our midst this morning, and may we all be changed by it. A special welcome to you if you are a newcomer in our midst, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, black, brown, or white, you are welcome. Our West Shore regulars would love to greet you and will do so if you indicate on the Facebook chat that you are new or relatively new. If you happen to have any questions and would like to speak with someone, West Shore's Member and Engagement Coordinator, Diane Elkhorn, would love to reach out. Diane's email address is being added to your Facebook chat as we speak. And now we have an announcement for you from Megan.
Good morning. I have just two announcements for you today. The first is just a reminder that next Sunday we will have an intergenerational service for Thanksgiving, and there will be no Sunday school for grades K to 8. The youth group, however, will meet as usual next Sunday at 7 o'clock. And our second announcement is that we are on week 2 of our Guest at Your Table campaign. Boxes are still available in the bin outside the east entrance here at church. In a moment, we're going to see a video from one of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's partners. When you donate to Guest at Your Table, you are supporting the work of people like Mark. And here's the video.
That's one of the challenges I'm facing right now, is just the partnerships and the collaborative work that is so important is being constrained. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. I think there's a level of co-authorship and collaboration that is deeper and can be done, but there has been a reluctance. I think people's next published article is writing on the fact that they're leading the work. They can't co-lead, they can't co-author. It doesn't work in that way for them. So, and that's why I really like working with UUSC, because they're kind of free from those confines. They're not motivated by that ambition. It's much healthier, I think, in terms of a collaborative partnership for our community. And so some of the challenges that I see and being addressed with UUSC's partnership has been, that way that we do our work and what motivates us in the end, and what timelines and restrictions that we are given to do the work, just being more, I guess, reflective of the local context.
Guest at Your Table is a great program. Thank you, Megan. My announcement is to remind people about conversations that are happening about the new organizational plan for West Shore that is going into effect. This Wednesday, November 18th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom, I'll be hosting a conversation with any and all volunteers involved in the areas of religious education and member engagement. An email invitation has already gone out to you. If you are involved in this area and you have not yet received an invitation, please contact Debbie Elliott in the office and she'll get that to you. Each program council will have its own conversation. For more on this, please read the larger announcement in this month's Shorelines. A final announcement is a big thank you to everyone who made West Shore's annual auction, Home Edition, possible. This year, we all know, has been a year of changes and challenges, and I want to thank you for rolling with these changes and making the best of them. So much gratitude goes out to everyone who helped make this event happen. Our auction team, who were not expecting to be dealing with a global pandemic, but they have been resilient, they have been brilliant, and they have been good-humored about the whole thing. Jerry Nazel, Kelly Pincus, Chris Baumhauer, thank you. Our staff, who have worked in partnership with this team, so grateful for business administrator Debbie Elliott, finance manager Suhanna Kiris, and media and communications coordinator Christine Solante. Joe Schaefer was in the house last night too. His piano playing was festive and wonderful. Our auctioneer was the wonderful Bob Hale. And thank you, all of you, for showing up and being generous in putting your dollars in service to greater joy in life. Dollars in service to strengthening this congregation and all the ways it creates positive change in our world. Thank you, West Shore. You are all terrific. Once again, welcome to this new day. You know, every week we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter how jarring the events of the previous week might have been, the gathered community, that is West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, is a source of stability and strength and meaning that we can depend on. In that spirit, we now say our chalice lighting words which come to us from a great soul, Maya Angelou. This is our chalice. In many separate rooms, we light one flame, flame of passion, flame of compassion, flame of humor, flame of style. We do not accept merely surviving. Let our mission be to thrive. Together in spirit, we are one. And let us now witness to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio suele. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. And so may it be. We move now to our greeting time. And today, we begin with a segment called In the Spotlight. Periodically, we are featuring a video of one of our West Shore children telling us a little about themselves. Thanks to Megan for making this possible. So now, let's get to know a little better Seeley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to In the Spotlight. I am Megan Ross, Acting Director of Religious Education at West Shore Church, and I'm here today with Celie, who is going into the 5th grade this year. Welcome, Celie.
Hi.
Today. So I'm so glad that you're here with us. I'm just going to ask you some questions so we can get to know you a little bit better. So the first question is, what made you laugh out loud this week?
Watching my brother struggle at a video game.
What game was he playing?
I think it was Halo.
Okay, and he was having a hard time with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of a sibling thing, isn't it? We sort of laugh when they're struggling. And what has been your favorite part of this summer?
Sleeping.
Yeah, did you get to sleep in a lot? Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do too, take a good nap, and summer's a good time for that. So do you, are you doing virtual school or in person?
Virtual.
Do you still have to get up early, or do you get to sleep in a little bit with the virtual school?
We have to get up early still.
So the next question we have is, if you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I would be a shark
A shark? Why would you choose a shark?
because they're endangered, and if I were to become a shark, then that would be one more shark added.
That's a really wonderful answer. I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, you would be increasing the population, wouldn't you? Do you have a particular shark that you like?
Great white.
The great white? I thought for sure you were going to say cat because of the cat ears. Okay, so our next question is, how have you seen our UU values at work in your life or someone else's? So
My brother helping me with a few video games would probably be a few of them.
okay, so he was helping you learn some video games?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and our UU principles are definitely about community and helping one another and loving each other. So even when we laugh at our brothers for struggling with video games, they turn around and help us anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the last question, show and tell. So pick something in your room or your house that you love and tell us about it.
This earring.
That earring, can you tell us about it?
It's from my favorite show called Demon Slayer.
Okay.
It's the main character's earring,
Mm-hmm.
and basically he slays demons to keep everyone safe.
Nice. And did you make that, or is that something you were able to buy?
We were able to buy it.
Very nice. So now you have the exact same earring as the character in your favorite show?
Yeah.
I'll have to check that show out. I haven't seen it yet. It sounds really good. All right. Well, Celie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we had a chance to get to know you just a little bit better. So this is Megan Ross with Celie signing off. And if your child would like to be in the spotlight, please contact me and I'd be happy to set up an interview. Thanks, everyone.
And that's Celie being interviewed by Megan. How wonderful to get to know the children of West Shore a little bit better. And we have some birthdays, too, to lift up. Nora's birthday was this past Tuesday. Cameron's was just a couple days ago, this past Friday. Harvey's will be next Saturday. Happy birthday to the children of West Shore. We are also mindful that this week was America's annual Veterans Day observance on November 11th. And right now, I invite you to join me in prayerful words of recognition of the great service and sacrifice some have been asked to make in this community and beyond. Living through the horror of war, facing death or physical harm, as a specter looming around any corner, we say, thank you, and know it will never be enough. Spirit of life, help us to embrace those America has sent forth in our names into danger. Give us the strength of will to serve them as they have served us. May they never hunger, may they never thirst. May there always be meaningful work for their hands. May they receive healing care in abundance. May we, the grateful heirs of a nation built on the idea of liberty, be faithful to pursuing that dream in our own lives and actions. Help us to be vigilant and never complacent. Let each one of us take personally this charge. May it be so, and may it be so. Amen. And now, let us say the names of people we are holding in our personal thoughts and prayers this morning. People in the West Shore community, people beyond. Wherever you happen to be, say into the space of your room these names. You may even type the name into our West Shore Facebook chat if you like. I'll pause for a moment as we do this. Thank you. This has been our greeting time, when we are called out of the 24/7 world into our special time of building intentional community around our Unitarian Universalist values. The times are so strange, and therefore we are called, like never before, to remember that there is always a light available to us to help us find our way, a light that comes to us from many ages and many nations. Let us now sing our opening hymn, number 190, Light of Ages and of Nations.
Good morning. I'm Grace Durfee, your worship associate for this morning. Reverend Anthony described me to a T in a sermon a few months ago when he shared one possible profile of the UU, someone who is a Christian, UU, and Buddhist. I was raised a Christian, became a UU over 25 years ago, and more recently have found my way onto the Buddhist path. I'm happy to share some of my experiences with Buddhism in this reflection. I don't remember when I first started meditating, which is now an important part of my practice. Likely, my evening routine some 25 years ago paved the way. Back then, I was a stay-at-home mom to two very active boys. Every evening while my husband gave the boys a bath, I would sit down and play the piano. Now, I'm not a natural musician, so I would have to concentrate very hard to read the music, find the right keys, and stay in rhythm. This utterly focused attention was akin to a meditative state. A few years later, I asked for mala beads for Christmas. I had read that one has to use them for 40 days in a row to consecrate them, so I did. 40 days was enough time for me to cement in the meditation habit, and mala meditation worked well for me. As busy as my mind can get, I found that linking each breath with a mantra and the movement of a mala bead helped to corral my attention. My UU church had a Sangha, a Buddhist group, but for years I wasn't even interested in checking it out. I'd heard that Buddhists believe in suffering, and I didn't want any part of that. I believe in the law of attraction. What you think about, you bring about. And I didn't want to bring suffering into my happy life. Then my mom, who was my best friend, died after a rough 3.5-year battle with ovarian cancer. There certainly was suffering there. And not even 4 months later, my dad died. This was a dark time for me. I finally got that everybody suffers. No one is immune. Part of what helped me out of the darkness was starting to attend weekly sittings with the Sangha. The sittings included chanting, a Dharma talk or personal reflection on Buddhist teachings, meditation, and discussion. Every few weeks there was often a visiting teacher. Many of the Sangha members had studied under one particular teacher, Lama Willa Miller. A Lama is someone who has completed the formal 3-year retreat. Lama Willa and Natural Dharma Fellowship, the foundation she started, offer a 2-year program to introduce the practices that are part of this traditional 3-year retreat. I joined this program and met as a group every month with 2 teachers who would introduce us to a new practice. We then practiced this technique over the next month in daily meditations. The first year of the program focused on Mahamudra practices, concentration practices such as watching the breath, accepting strong emotions, and focusing on an object. Then we moved to Shamatha, or open awareness practices, which focus on the boundless nature of the mind. There were 2 optional week-long silent retreats that I participated in. Many of my friends thought I was out of my mind to attend a week-long silent retreat. Actually, I found I got into my mind in the process. I became very aware of my thinking, the incessant chatter, and the brief, exquisite periods of peace. That's what I think brings people to Buddhism and to meditation. These glimpses of grace, blissful experiences of our true nature. At the end of that year's program, I took my first step onto the Buddhist path by formally taking refuge with Lama Willa as my teacher. The next year's program focused on compassion practices, such as metta or loving kindness, tonglen, and benefactor practices. I was particularly drawn to these. At the final retreat, I took my second step on the path of Buddhism and took the Bodhisattva vow. A Bodhisattva is someone who agrees to keep coming back until all are fully illumined and awakened. By this time, my motivation had deepened. My practice wasn't purely for my own personal benefit, it was for others as well. In line with this commitment, I occasionally led practice for my Sangha, offered weekly meditations at a company, and helped launch Friday morning meditations for my Sangha. It was my Buddhist practice that brought me to West Shore. Even before we moved to Ohio, I had done my research and found not only were you a vibrant congregation, but you also offer 2 different meditation groups, a Zazen group and a group led by Mary Gregolia. I participate in both, as well as the online sittings that my Massachusetts Sangha has been offering since the beginning of the pandemic. Who knows what's next for me on the Buddhist path? But with so many different meditations and teachings, I believe I have plenty to practice in this lifetime and beyond.
Thank you, Grace. And now let's turn to our call to the offering. And the story is told of a minister who one day made an announcement from the pulpit. He looked out across a room full of people, and he said, "We have all the money we need to complete our project." A brief silence was followed by cheers and applause. People heard what he said. They were so excited. But there is just one problem, this preacher continued. Some of that money is still in your pockets. After a few moans and laughter, the service continued. We might moan at the thought of it, but it's true. Building beloved community is an ongoing effort that involves ongoing giving. We have no sugar daddies to bail us out. It's up to all of us pitching in all together. But let's not forget to laugh too. There's nothing more meaningful than being a part of a spiritual community that supports you and the people you love. Giving the money in your pockets is totally worth it. Please now consider giving a one-time gift to West Shore. Instructions for how to do that, to text it in, can be found on your screen. Our offertory today comes from jazz musician Herbie Hancock. Since 1972, Herbie Hancock has practiced Nichiren Buddhism as a member of the Buddhist Association Soka Gakkai International. As part of Hancock's spiritual practice, he recites the Buddhist chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo each day. Here is a piece by Herbie Hancock entitled Maiden Voyage, performed by the wonderful Dave Blazer. chanting is, for Buddhists and members of religious traditions worldwide, a royal road to expanded consciousness. The sounds that are chanted are called mantras, and one of the most powerful is the sacred syllable of Om. This morning, I invite you to open your mind and heart to the deep mantra meditation of Om. Let calm and peace happen for you. Om. So may it be. Amen. And now, please consider this short video.
My name is Damien Keown. I'm here to talk about Buddhism, and here are 10 things you should know. Number 1, the term Buddhism was coined by Western scholars in the 1830s. Buddhists themselves don't refer to their religion as Buddhism. They speak of it as the Dharma or as the teachings of the Buddha. 2, Buddhism originated sometime around 400 BC with a historical individual known as the Buddha. The term Buddha means one who has awakened. 3, the first mention of the Buddha in Western writings is in the writings of Clement of Alexandria in the 2nd century AD. 4, the Buddha founded an order of monks and nuns known as the Sangha, which has preserved his teachings down to the present day. 5, Buddhism is an extensive and internally diverse tradition. It has 2 main branches known as Mahayana and Theravada. The Mahayana form of Buddhism predominates in North Asia and the Theravada form in South and Southeast Asia. 6, with some 360 million followers, Buddhism is the world's 4th largest religion. 7, in Buddhism there is no single holy book like the Bible or the Quran. Buddhist scriptures are very extensive and have been preserved in many Asian languages. 8, the term religion may be thought problematic when applied to Buddhism, since Buddhism doesn't believe in a supreme being or creator God. 9, because of its emphasis on meditation and mindfulness, Buddhism is sometimes thought of more as a form of psychology than a religion. Its teachings have proved very helpful in many therapeutic situations. 10. Most traditional Buddhists believe in reincarnation or rebirth. However, some modern Buddhists believe that this idea can be jettisoned without losing anything of central value.
Late in Siddhartha Gautama's ministry, around 2,500 years ago, when India was on fire with his message, his liberating message, people would come to him asking not, "Who are you?" not, "What is your name, your origin, your ancestry?" not that, but this, "What are you? What species do you represent? Are you an angel? Are you a god? To what order of being do you belong?" To which the historical founder of Buddhism would answer every time very simply, "I am awake." That is what it means to be a Buddha, to be awake. But things did not start out that way. The path towards awakening is a crooked one, zigging and zagging crazily. There is a Buddha in each of us, in everyone. But the story of how any individual person taps into that potential is always unique and always incorporates adversity of some kind. This is as much true for the founder of Buddhism as it is for Unitarian Universalists like Grace, whose story we heard earlier, as well as for you and for me. One legend has it that at Siddhartha's birth, his father, a king, summoned seers to divine his son's future. They all agreed that this was no ordinary child and that there were two remarkable possibilities before him, though only one could come true. He would become ruler of all India, or he would become a world redeemer. That is what the seers said. Which led his father, the king, to make a decision. He would do everything within his power to ensure that his prince stayed the heck away from spirituality. In contemporary terms, we might say that the father wanted his son to go for the business major as opposed to the philosophy major. So the king surrounded his prince with every privilege imaginable. 3 palaces and 40,000 dancing girls. This is a legend after all. Strict orders to the servants that no ugliness was ever to intrude upon Siddhartha's courtly pleasures. Nothing to suggest his life might inflict hurts, that life might inflict hurts which even the things a king possesses cannot heal. The man who woke up started life fast asleep. There's not a straight shot to destiny in his hero story. For 20-odd years, Prince Siddhartha would live in a bubble of privilege, disengaged from the real world. But then one day, he went out into the countryside, riding. It had been a long-time habit of his riding, though the king would insist that he would stay on the regular paths, from which he would have servants clear away anything offensive. Except for this one day. One day, along the path, the prince encountered an old man, decrepit, broken-toothed, gray-haired, leaning on a staff, trembling. The prince had never seen anything like it before. During Siddhartha's second outing, he saw a body racked with disease. During a third outing, he saw a corpse. And during the fourth, perhaps the most surprising sight of all, there, by the roadside, a Hindu monk with shaven head, ochre robe, begging bowl, and peace. Peace in the midst of circumstances that, for all Siddhartha knew up to that point in his life, should have made peace impossible. But the impoverished monk was at peace. And Siddhartha, the prince, despite his 3 palaces and 40,000 dancing girls and everything else comprising his privilege, was not at peace. Buddhists call this the legend of the 4 passing sights. And perhaps the truth for all of us implied in it is that there are social forces wanting us to stay asleep in whatever bubble of social privilege we may be in. Last week we talked about how middle-class culture is exactly one such force. But the legend goes on to suggest that the universe ultimately will not allow for it. Use your preferred spiritual words here. I will use the phrase spirit of life. The spirit of life will not allow for such disconnection for long. It pushes against all such obstacles to wholeness. It puts situations and people into our lives that disrupt our privileged bubbles. Sometimes it is misfortune. Sometimes it is disease. Life will not let us stay in the cozy cocoon of unknowing forever. It is said that the 4 passing sights so overwhelmed the sensitive Siddhartha that he resolved right then, right there, to give up his right to his father's throne, leave everything and everyone he knew, and strike out on the spiritual quest, become a monk himself. Find peace. Thus he entered the next phase of his life where, through trial and error, he developed a complete spiritual way of life. Ever afterwards, Buddhists have called it the Eightfold Path, which is fundamentally a practical way, fundamentally a way of finding balance between extremes. Not too much attachment to worldly things, but neither too much asceticism and self-denial, self-mortification. With this understood, do 8 things. Number 1, know some basic spiritual truths like the 4 Noble Truths. More about those 4 Noble Truths in a moment. Number 2, be serious about your desire to grow spiritually. Number 3, avoid gossip and cruel speech, and be kind and truthful with your words. Number 4, do not kill, steal, lie, drink alcohol, or abuse sex. Strive for right behavior. Number 5, avoid jobs that pollute your soul. Work at jobs that further the good life. Number 6, discover your own rhythm and move steadily at your own pace. Right effort. Number 7, develop your awareness and thinking skills. And number 8, learn how to meditate and practice it regularly. That is the Eightfold Path. Balance between extremes. Fairly easy to summarize, but Siddhartha almost died on the way to learning it because Siddhartha was all about extremes. He was stubborn and strong-willed like no one else. It was his basic disposition, never to do anything halfway. It wasn't enough for him just to become like the Hindu monk who had shocked him out of his ignorance. It wasn't enough to do all the things required to join the community of monks and be one of them. Siddhartha had to be better than that. He had to become the most ascetic, world-denying, self-denying monk ever. Monkishness as if it were some kind of competitive sport. It's something we can all relate to today. attempts at virtue which go to extremes of either self-sacrifice or the sacrifice of others in service to a vision of the end justifies the means. We see this in political parties. We see this in religious parties. We see this in social justice parties, right and left. We see it. People anxious to signal their purity and how they are not like those others. People willing to say extreme hurtful things and do extreme hurtful things in service to purity. For Siddhartha, on his own purity quest, it got to the point that he ate so little, only 6 grains of rice a day during one of his long fasts, that he looked like a concentration camp victim. Until one day it just went too far. He collapsed. He was sick unto death. He would have died if it had not been for his companions who nursed him back to health. Trial and error was how Siddhartha learned the wisdom of the middle way. You can't pursue spiritual truth without taking care of your body, without giving it what is natural and necessary. There must be balance. We are ourselves on the very same zigzag quest for balance today in this world, where the centrifugal forces of political and religious extremism are so very powerful. The quest for perfect purity must give way finally to the quest for wholeness and humanity. But now we turn to the last part of today's hero story. Young Siddhartha has just realized for himself the wisdom of the middle way. He has survived his mistakes so far. And now he continues on, still in search of enlightenment. One day, he sits under a bo tree near Gaya in northern India, and he intensifies his meditation practice, vows that he will not be moved from his spot underneath that bo tree until he finds peace. He's almost there. He's about to come fully awake. And guess who appears at the last moment? Not his father the king, not the monk he felt competitive towards, but the evil one, a demon who has come to test Siddhartha to see if there is any unhealthy ego left in him which can be inflamed. This is what the ancient Buddhist legends say. And as an intriguing side note, consider how we have basically the same thing happening in legends told of yet another spiritual teacher, great teacher from a great religious tradition in another part of the world. This teacher named Jesus of Nazareth happened to him too, same way. There's something in this theme of last-minute temptation, something that cuts across space and time and suggests a truth about the basic human condition. Just when you are closest to awakening, that is the time of your greatest danger. Just when you have lost sight of your shadow, when you think your perspective is perfectly clear, when you think others are idiots and you yourself have the truth and are blameless, that's when the devil's got you. That's when you're in the hands of the evil one. Back to the story. The evil one approaches Siddhartha, meditating under the bo tree in search of peace. And that evil one thinks, I'll distract him by inflaming his sexual desires. This young man of his father's court, who used to enjoy the company of 40,000 dancing girls. So the evil one assumes the form of Kama, god of desire, and all of a sudden it's just raining women. Beautiful women are beckoning everywhere. But Siddhartha remains unmoved. He has renounced his addiction to physical pleasure. He has come a long way since his days at court. So the evil one then thinks, well, here's what I'll do instead. I will distract him by making him afraid for his life. This man who was so freaked out by old age and sickness and death. So he assumes the form of Mara, Lord of Death. And all of a sudden, Siddhartha is surrounded by hurricanes, tsunamis, showers of flaming rocks. But Siddhartha allows the fear to come and go without clinging to it. It just comes and goes. He's renounced his addiction to physical permanence. He's come a long way since the 4 passing sights. In final desperation, the evil one does this. He challenges Siddhartha's right to do what he is doing. Says he's got no right. And this opens up a huge can of worms, because really what it does is it triggers Siddhartha's father issues. His father, the king, was so disappointed in him that he would give up his bubble of privilege for the life of a monk. His father, the king, was not proud of his son. Besides sadness, there was resentment, because his father, the king, did all he could to keep the son in a bubble, and so essentially sidetracked him from his destiny for more than 20 years. Yet Siddhartha had forgiven his dad. He had renounced his right to resentment and had stopped clinging to it. He'd also made peace with himself. Siddhartha touched the earth with his right fingertip, and the entire universe responded with 100,000 roars. It is your birthright. It is your birthright. Just as it is the birthright of every Unitarian Universalist, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, black, brown, or white, to seek and to find their own unique destiny, even if it might go against a loved one's wishes. Siddhartha was untouched by the 3 temptations of the evil one. And that's when it happened. There, under the Bo tree, near Gaya, in northern India, 2,500 years ago, the Great Awakening. Buddhists call it nirvana. It is a very special kind of experience. Exactly what Siddhartha experienced, he ended up proclaiming in his very first sermon, which he called Setting Rolling the Wheel of Truth. Setting Rolling the Wheel of Truth. In it, he speaks of 4 noble truths. And here's the first one. Life is suffering. Suffering is basic to the human condition. Aging, sickness, death, enemies, resentment, suffering that seems random and arbitrary, or suffering whose cause is unknown, suffering which is a matter of being tied to what someone dislikes or to be separated from what one loves. So many forms of suffering. Life is suffering. But what causes this? That's what the second noble truth is all about. The second noble truth. Suffering is caused by self-centered craving. I mean, isn't it obvious that life is full of suffering? But if we truly knew this, then why do we get so upset about it? Why does it shake us to the core every time? Something makes it so hard for us to accept the pains of life graciously and courageously. The Buddhists call it tanha, habits of heart and mind, which cause us to cling to personal expectations and shoulds about the way the world ought to be. We stew in the juices of our angers and resentments, and so we suffer. So how do we stop it? Well, this leads to the third noble truth. To stop suffering, one must overcome self-centered craving through nirvana. Some people think Buddhism is a real downer, yet with this third noble truth, we have a true gospel. We've got genuine good news. Suffering is not the end of our story. It doesn't have to be. There is a cure, and the cure is the nirvana experience, which is what Siddhartha had under the bo tree. But it can only be had firsthand. And this leads us into some perplexity for how can people understand nirvana if they have never experienced it personally for themselves? Or talk about it. And yet we talk about it. I am about to talk about it. Perhaps it is like the blowing apart of the walls of one's small sense of self until all that is left is limitless compassion, limitless peace. And yet somehow you are still aware of your separate individual self, even as you feel interconnectedness with everything else. And it is good. It is like a new creation. It is good. And in the face of this sweetness, why not let all the shoulds and expectations drop? Why not? Let them go. The evil one could come and throw everything at you, but there would be nothing to hit. There would be nothing in your soul that desire or fear or a sense of unworthiness could cling to. Perhaps this is what nirvana is like. But again, words are one thing, and direct experience is something altogether different. Which takes us to the fourth noble truth. The way to nirvana is through the Eightfold Path. And we have already been introduced to the Eightfold Path, that eminently practical, holistic, middle way to enlightenment. That's the Four Noble Truths. That is the very first sermon that Siddhartha Gautama, now the Buddha, preached. But at this point, here's something you need to know, and this is the last part of Siddhartha's hero story that we're going to talk about today, is that very first sermon of his, entitled Setting Rolling the Wheel of Truth, well, it almost never got preached. It almost never got preached. Here's what happened. There was a gap between the moment of Siddhartha's enlightenment under the bo tree and the time when he was going to give his sermon. And into that gap flew the evil one with an unexpected temptation, temptation number 4, just as in every horror movie, after all the battering that has just happened, and you think the coast is clear, but no, up pops Freddy Krueger, up pops Michael Myers, up pops Chucky, up pops Jason. Horror happened to the newly born Buddha. What happened was this. The evil one sucker punched him with the very worst temptation of all, exactly because it appealed to one of the Buddha's greatest strengths, his reason. The evil one said to Siddhartha, "Good job with the whole enlightenment thing. Nirvana is yours. But of all people, surely you can appreciate how impossible it will be to put nirvana into words. How can you do that? How can you teach what people can only find for themselves? How can you show what people can see with only their own eyes?" So there you'll be going on and on about the secrets of spiritual enlightenment, and your audience will not know what the heck you're talking about. Such isolation and misunderstanding you will experience. Worse, others will step up, teachers pretending to know, but only for the sake of duping others, making money, gaining power, selling fake nirvana. And worst of all, people who do know real nirvana will, for various reasons, start creating tribes, and vicious infighting will ensue, and religion will turn competitive. Siddhartha, said the evil one, Siddhartha, listen, if you set rolling the wheel of truth, if you set rolling that wheel of truth, if you talk about your four noble truths and your eightfold noble path and nirvana and on, you will only be setting yourself up for failure. Is that what you want? And with this, Siddhartha, the man who awoke, the man who became a Buddha, he paused. Can you relate? Have you ever had a moment in which you dreamed a great dream, and the hero path opens up before you, and your star is blazing brilliantly above you, but then a voice of dry reason says, it's impossible, or look what might happen, or it's just too complicated, or I don't have enough time, or maybe even, I'm not going to talk about my Unitarian Universalist faith because it's not easy to summarize and most people won't get it anyhow. This voice comes and you press pause. And you can't easily dismiss the voice of reason here. Reason is essential. Reason keeps us safe. Reason keeps us connected to other people and to reality. Reason makes us very aware of how strange our Unitarian Universalism is, many-sourced as it is, how strange it is to folks who all their lives have only known a one way, one truth, one life sort of religion. Unitarian Universalism is a crooked path to enlightenment. Yet what I'm saying, what I believe the ultimate message of this part of the Buddhist story is that we need more than reason to pursue the hero path. We need more than reason to dare what is great. If we stare too deeply into the complexities and possibilities of our future, we will be like that proverbial caterpillar who asks himself how he walks when he has so many feet going on at the same time, though he'd been doing just fine up to that point. Then he asks the question, and then upon realizing the complexity of something he already knows how to do in some way, upon realizing that the life he inhabits is fundamentally a mystery, that is when he decides to control it. That is when he insists on calling the shots. That's when he puts his ego square in the center, and that's when it all comes apart. The simplest thing, walking, becomes impossible. But it is not impossible when you have hope beyond reason. With this fourth and last temptation, the evil one blindsided the Buddha with rational argument, and it made the Buddha pause. But the Buddha paused for only a moment. And then he said, there will be some who understand. There will be some who understand. And that is when the Buddha set his wheel of truth in motion. That is when he said, go. And you know the rest of the story. From the some who understood grew a world religion with billions of adherents today, which continues to transform lives and blesses us as Unitarian Universalists today. It is not perfect, but perfection is not needed. Some even say that perfection is the enemy of the good or the great. It was pure hope that took the historical founder of Buddhism over the top. Pure hope. may it put us over the top, too. Amen. Amen. And now let us sing our closing hymn for the day, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Now bring your chalice close to extinguish it as I extinguish our chalice here, and as we say these words, we extinguish our flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Remember coffee hour today starting at 11:30, and I think we're almost there. We had a little bit of a late start today. I will see you at 12:30 for the sermon chat on Zoom. And now the benediction from the best-known book in the Pali Canon of Scripture, the Pali Buddhist Canon of Scripture, called the Dhammapada. It is an anthology of basic Buddhist teachings. The thought manifests the word manifests the deed develops into habit, and habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care, and let them spring forth from love, born out of compassion for all beings. As the shadow follows the body, as we think, so we are. This is what the Buddha says. And may we receive this into our hearts this day as we re-enter a world that so deeply needs love and compassion and care. So may it be. Amen. See you next week, West Shore. Until then, love, courage, and cheer to all.